Okay guys, sorry about the incredibly radical change of plans here, but we're actually gonna go to our first car show of the season in August. I have been completely neglecting to go to one of these. We're gonna take the TSX out. I don't know what types of cars are gonna be here. Honestly, this thing could not be any dirtier. Look at the front of this thing. It's absolutely terrible. I actually have a new plate. Look at all the bugs, dude. Absolute bug eater. Look at that, it's gross. But I actually have a new license plate for it too. Guaranteed that bolt falls out on the way. So this will look incredibly silly when we get there because that's just how it's gonna go. But yeah, we're gonna take this thing out and see what kind of trouble we can find. So we're actually here at the car show, guys, and I parked this thing as traffic because there's way more cool cars. There's way cooler cars than what this thing is. So we're here as traffic for now. We're gonna have the RSX at one of these things eventually, but yeah. This edit's gonna be fire, as the kids say. Alright guys, so we're back home after the car show. Unfortunately, it did get rained out. It is much later in the night. It's actually 11:30, but I had a lot of fun. There was a lot of really cool cars there, as you guys saw, and yeah, I had a great time. So we're gonna pick back up on the RSX next time I have a chance to work on it, and I'll see you guys then. Alright, so when I bought a TSX with 200,000 miles, I knew it was gonna have its issues, and honestly guys, today those issues are catching up to us. This car has a really bad ball joint. This ball joint, the one that we just did the control arm for, is really, really bad. So we're gonna pick up a new ball joint right now and get that going. Now, that is just one of our two issues. Unfortunately, this thing is also just pissing oil everywhere. So after we get the ball joint done, we're gonna see if we can locate that leak and hopefully get it fixed, or at least make a game plan. All right guys, we got the goods. Let's get home and throw this thing in. All right guys, so unfortunately, in order to get this ball joint out of this car, I have to get the whole knuckle out. So I'm just gonna time lapse this, get going, and get this thing out of here. So something online with the ball joints that I wanted to show you guys, because I actually didn't rent the tool. Hi, sweetie. So because I didn't rent the tool to press this in here, I did see that some people throw these in the freezer to make them easier to install. It should shrink it and hopefully make it easier to put in. Alright guys, so here's the knuckle out of the car. Honestly, this joint looks absolutely beat and it does not feel good. It's really like crusty and gross, so it's looking like this is gonna be a huge improvement for us. So honestly, I could have rented a press tool, but I thought it would be more fun to swing at this with a hammer. So we're gonna do that and see if we can get this thing to pop out. And then we have the other one in the freezer, so hopefully that one will slide in for us. If not, we can find a way to get down to an auto parts store, but I think we'll be okay. Alright guys, so unfortunately when we were pressing in our new ball joint here, let me show you guys kind of what went down. We got a little bit too aggressive with the press and ended up absolutely gnarling our new stud on our new ball joint. So it's looking like the move is going to be to take this knuckle down to the shop down the road so they can press the new ball joint in, and then we'll just button it up when we're done. Alright guys, we are back up for round 2 today. We do have our knuckle all set. She's back from the shop, all pressed in here. I need to work out a little more, but here is our knuckle, all set guys. New ball joints pressed in, so we're just gonna throw this all back together and get this car back on the road. Let's do it. All right guys, so with that, our ball joint job is all done. We just need to do the axle nut here, which I'm gonna do with the wheel on the ground with the hubcap off the rim, or the wheel, not the rim. Sorry guys, with the hubcap off the wheel, because this will just spin if there's nothing holding it down, and I don't have anyone to hop in and hold the brake. So we're gonna throw the wheel on without the hubcap so we can get that axle nut back on there. I am gonna order a new one, but we're gonna reuse the old one for now. Before we do that though, what I'm gonna do is actually clean off the back of the engine block and see if we can locate this oil leak. Let's see what we can find. All right guys, so I think I found the oil leak. Let me show you what we got going on. So I thought our oil leak was gonna be coming from our oil filter, which is obviously gonna be this guy here, the black piece. But I eventually noticed that it was wet up a little bit higher, and I found a leak on this sensor up here. Now this sensor usually does have this black boot on here, which made it kind of tough to see the oil, but I ran a paper towel up there and found some oil on it, and as you guys can see, it's actually still collecting a drip up there. Now that I believe is our oil pressure switch, and it should be pretty easy to swap out. So I think when I order my axle nut, I'll just order one of these in case it needs a replacement, but for now I'm just gonna throw a wrench on it. Hopefully it'll tighten down a little bit. It does look like it's backing out just a tiny bit, so we'll see. But for now I'm just gonna try and get a little bit of a turn on it, and hopefully that'll stop our leak. That would be crazy. All right guys, so unfortunately not the best news. I didn't really get this thing to move at all. It was, I mean, this thing was pretty tight, and I didn't want to tighten it anymore and break it because it's in the engine block. So I think what I'm gonna do is at another time do a complete oil change on this. And while we do the oil change, we're just gonna replace that switch while we're at it. Hopefully that stops our leak, and we'll have some nice fresh oil and a new filter on there as well. For now, what I'm gonna do is take the hubcaps off these wheels so that all four look the same, and then we're gonna put them back on, lower it down, get our axle nut back on our driver's side wheel, and go for a test drive. Actually, before we put the car back together, I think what we're gonna do is let it run for a second and see if we can track this oil leak and just get a better idea if it is coming from that switch. I'm like 90% sure, but worth a look anyway, right? So while it's up, before we put that like rubber cover back on the switch too, we'll just let it run for a second and just make super sure. All right guys, so I was super wrong about the switch. This thing is leaking from the oil filter pretty clearly. Let's take a look. So as you guys can see right up in here, I'm sorry, I know it's loud, but the car is running. She's dripping up on the filter, and then way up on our switch, it I think is leaking pretty slowly. Definitely way slower than from the filter, so let's shut this thing off and try and get this filter a little tighter too. All right guys, let's get under here. See if we can get a little bit of a turn on our filter. There were some young kids working at the shop that I bought this thing from, so there might just be like a second gasket on this filter. So we are definitely going to do a full oil change over the weekend to get this filter out of here. It looks old. He said he had just done the oil when I picked it up, but it's not turning. It's on there relatively tight. So maybe there's a second gasket on there or something. So we'll do a full oil change, and hopefully that'll fix our leak next time. In the meantime, let's slap this thing back together and go for a ride. All right guys, here we go, maiden voyage with the new ball joint. We'll give it the little test here, the driveway test. Oh, it's so much better, dude, let's go. I really think we did it, boys. Oh, there's the clunk. Hearing some kind of noise. How is that? Clunk, 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 clunk. All right guys, so thank God that noise was our heat shield. It wasn't a binded axle or anything like that. So this thing, I just went beast mode. I'm sorry I didn't film it, but I took the wheel off and I got the thing bent back, so it's not hitting the rotor anymore. Just took it up and down the street. No more noise, so let's go for our test drive for real. But first, all right guys, actual maiden voyage in the TSX. Like I said, I had it up and down the road real quick and it felt really good. So hopefully it'll feel the same driving around on the road for real. Here we go, main road time. So the steering feels so much smoother, lighter, and more consistent, which is huge. And off the bat, it's already not jumping around the road as much at all. So guys, this was a huge win. I can already tell this is a huge difference. On acceleration, there's no shake in the steering wheel anymore. I'm really excited to get this thing out on the highway because there was some pretty significant steering wheel wobble, which I think is gonna be pretty much, if not all the way gone with this ball joint. So we're looking really good, guys. I'm gonna drive it around for a little bit here, get comfortable with it, develop some thoughts, and I'll update you guys on the status of the TSX in just a little bit.